Have you ever had this confusion? You work hard to make money, but you can never save any. When you see others driving luxury cars and living in mansions, you feel like they were born rich. And no matter how hard you try, you can't catch up. Actually, financial success never relies on background or education. Instead, it comes down to the right behavioral habits. Today, these two real stories will help you see through the underlying logic of wealth and figure out how ordinary people can stabilize their finances on their own. Speaking of the frugal tycoon Warren Buffett, let's take a look at a completely opposite example, NBA star Antoine Walker. Walker's starting point and background are enviable for many. He was an NBA All-Star with a career total income exceeding $110 million an income level that's impressive anywhere. Thanks to his outstanding basketball talent and on-court performance, he achieved financial freedom at a young age, becoming a successful person in the worldly sense with a high income and a glamorous professional resume. But after retiring, he did a series of things completely contrary to financial rationality. He indulged in luxurious consumption, buying dozens of luxury sports cars and multiple mansions, and often spent huge sums of money on extravagant parties. He surrounded himself with a group of unproductive friends and spent money recklessly on them. He always thought that he had made enough money and could definitely afford this high-consumption lifestyle. But he completely ignored that the core of financial security is rational consumption and risk control. Unfortunately, as his income stopped, his wealth shrank rapidly. The heavy debts he had incurred to maintain his luxurious lifestyle pushed him to the brink. In the end, he had no choice but to declare bankruptcy, and his mansions and famous cars were auctioned off to pay off debts. Antoine Walker's experience really tells us that even if you have top talent and a high income, without correct financial behaviors such as overconsumption, reckless spending, and ignoring risks, you will eventually fail financially. Putting these two stories together, the contrast is really striking, and it clearly explains the essence of financial success. In fact, many people have a misunderstanding in real life. They think that as long as they have high talent, enter a good industry and can get a high income, they will definitely achieve financial freedom. But Warren Buffett and Antoine Walker's experiences clearly tell us that talent and high income are at most bonuses for financial success, not decisive factors. What really plays a key role is our personal financial behaviors. Specifically, can you maintain frugality and reasonably control your consumption? Can you persist in saving to accumulate a sum of capital for the future? Can you invest rationally and let your assets appreciate with the power of time and compound interest? And can you respect risks, avoid reckless spending and excessive speculation? Look at Warren Buffett. He accumulated huge wealth through decades of consistent frugality and long-term value investment. On the other hand, Antoine Walker, with top basketball talent and high income, quickly fell into financial distress due to luxurious consumption and reckless spending. This also reminds every ordinary person that financial success is not out of reach, nor does it require any special talent or background. The key is to establish correct financial behavioral habits and stick to them for a long time. No matter whether your income is high or low, as long as you can achieve rational consumption, continuous saving, and long-term investment, you will slowly achieve financial security over time. On the contrary, those who do not pay attention to their financial behaviors and blindly pursue material enjoyment will find it difficult to keep their wealth even if they have it temporarily. After talking about whether financial success depends on behavior or background, let's move on to another particularly important topic: being wary of endless desires and endless social comparisons. This is actually an important issue that everyone must face on the road of managing money and pursuing life happiness. Human desires are inherently expansionary. Once we taste the sweetness brought by wealth, we are easily trapped in an endless pursuit. And social comparisons will further intensify this sense of dissatisfaction, eventually making us make irrational behaviors and even pay a heavy price. Let me tell you another real case here, the experience of famous American investor Jesse Livermore in the 1920s is a typical example of losing control of desires. At that time, Livermore was a very successful stock trader. With his keen judgment and operations in the stock market, he once ranked among the richest people in the United States. As his wealth accumulated more and more, he became more and more confident and slowly lost himself, with his inner desires beginning to expand infinitely. He was no longer satisfied with the existing returns and was determined to make more money in the stock market. To achieve this goal, he even borrowed a large sum of money to invest in the market by leveraging. Some of you may not be clear about what leverage is. Simply put, leverage is a double-edged sword. It can not only amplify your returns but also your risks. But at that time, Livermore was dazzled by desire, completely ignoring the potential huge risks and only seeing the possible high returns. However, market changes are often unpredictable, and his judgment finally made a serious mistake. He not only failed to earn the expected wealth but also lost all his money in the stock market. Overnight, he fell from the peak to the bottom, becoming not only penniless but also burdened with heavy debts, completely falling into the predicament of bankruptcy. What's worse, when he suffered a devastating blow financially, his marriage also had major problems. Hit hard by both, he completely collapsed and finally chose to end his life at home. The root cause of Livermore's tragedy is that he couldn't control his ever-expanding desires, lost his rationality in the pursuit of wealth, and finally paid the price with his life. Similarly, Rajat Gupta, the former CEO of McKinsey, the world's most famous consulting firm, also ruined his reputation because he couldn't resist the temptation of desire. He once had a net worth of up to $100 million, a successful career, and a prominent social status, having reached a height that many people cannot achieve. But even so, he was still dissatisfied. Deep down in his heart, he always wanted to go further and enter the social circle of billionaires. To achieve this goal, he even abandoned his professional ethics and legal bottom line, trying to profit in the stock market through inside information. As we all know, insider trading is a strictly prohibited illegal act in the financial market. It not only undermines the fairness and justice of the market but also violates basic business ethics. But at that time, Rajat Gupta was blinded by desire and completely ignored the huge risks involved. In the end, his illegal behavior was exposed, and he was taken to court. After trial, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison. This scandal not only made him lose his freedom but also completely destroyed his career and the reputation he had accumulated over the years. The glory and achievements of the past vanished in an instant, which is really regrettable. Rajat Gupta's case also proves that no matter how much wealth and status a person has, once driven by endless desires to make irrational behaviors, they may collapse in an instant, and all previous efforts will be in vain. In fact, the reason why human desires continue to expand is essentially human nature. To a certain extent, this nature is also the driving force for human progress. It makes us continuously pursue a better life and explore more possibilities. But if this nature is applied to money management, it must be restrained, otherwise it will be like a runaway wild horse, bringing catastrophic consequences. And social comparisons will make this desire even more uncontrollable. I wonder if you have this feeling. In real life, we always unconsciously compare ourselves with others. When we see others who are richer, earn more, or live in bigger and more luxurious houses, we feel uncomfortable. But this kind of comparison has no end. No matter how high you reach, there will always be higher standards waiting for you. This meaningless comparison will only trap us in endless anxiety and unhappiness. To keep up with others and satisfy our vanity, many people will make consumption and investment decisions beyond their capabilities. For example, blindly taking out loans to buy mansions, famous cars, following the trend to make high-risk investments, and finally falling into financial distress. I have friends around me who, seeing others buy new cars, insist on taking out loans to buy one even though they don't have enough budget. As a result, the monthly loan repayments put them under great pressure, and their originally relaxed life became a mess. Actually, although only a few people have tens of millions of dollars in assets, many people may get a generous income at a certain stage of their lives or accumulate enough assets to meet their basic living needs and buy what they want. At this time, knowing when to stop becomes particularly important. No matter how great the potential return is, if it requires sacrificing integrity, legal bottom lines, or life happiness, it is never worth taking the risk. The phrase contentment brings lasting joy may sound cliched and even simple. But if you really apply it to life, you will have a completely different experience. Compare yourself less with others, have less desire to chase trends, don't care too much about others' opinions, and learn to cherish what you already have. You will find that it is easier to be happy and life will be more peaceful and comfortable. Specifically, in terms of financial management, this means that we should rationally view the accumulation of wealth, set reasonable financial goals, not blindly pursue high returns, not be led by desires, and always maintain a clear mind and rational judgment. Only in this way can we walk more steadily and further on the road of accumulating wealth and truly achieve inner peace and happiness. I have always thought that managing money is not just about managing numbers, but also about managing your own mindset. When your mindset is stable, you can keep your money and make it appreciate. Next, let's talk about another very insightful view from the book, the uniform mindset. You don't need to spend money to gain others' respect. Behind this view lies profound psychological phenomena and life wisdom. The author mentions a very interesting scenario in the book. When you see a supercar on the street, you can carefully observe your inner thoughts. I guess most people at that moment rarely think that the owner of the car is cool or successful. Instead, they mostly imagine that if they could afford such a supercar, everyone would think they are successful. You see, there's a weird logic behind this. When we try to prove our success through external material things, others often ignore the owner of the item and instead focus all their attention on the item itself. In other words, the attention attracted by a supercar comes from the luxury and rarity of the car itself, not the personal qualities or achievements of the owner. So, trying to win others' respect by buying luxury goods will not get the result you want, because this way cannot make others truly recognize and respect you. I have seen people buy famous brand bags to save face before, but in the end, people around them only discuss whether the bag is nice or a new style. No one will think that person is excellent just because of the bag. There are countless such examples in life. Many people have the urge to buy mansions, famous cars, or expensive luxury goods. On the surface, they say it's to improve their quality of life, but their real inner thought is often to gain others' respect and admiration. They always think that having these material wealth can prove their success and gain others' recognition. So they are willing to spend a lot of money, even beyond their financial capacity, to pursue these external materials. But the result is often counterproductive. They may get some people's attention temporarily, but this attention is mostly superficial and short-lived and will never turn into real respect. For example, someone takes out a loan to buy a luxury car. People around them may say a few words of admiration at first, but this admiration will soon fade away. If everyone finds out that he took on heavy debts to buy the car and his quality of life has been seriously affected, they will not only not respect him but may also not understand his behavior, thinking he is too vain. On the contrary, if a person lives a simple life but is upright, helpful, humble, and polite, he will definitely gain the sincere respect and love of the people around him. I know a teacher who usually dresses simply and lives in an ordinary house, but he is very patient and willing to help anyone in need. Both students and colleagues respect him very much. This kind of respect cannot be bought with money. So real respect can never be bought with money or material things. It comes from a person's inner qualities such as humility, kindness, empathy, sense of responsibility, and professional competence. Compared with buying supercars and luxurious houses, learning to be humble and treat people around you with empathy can make you gain others' respect more. Humble people can correctly view their position and will not look down on others because they are rich, have a high status, or have achievements. They are willing to listen to others' opinions and respect others' feelings. And this attitude can naturally win others' favor and respect. Empathetic people can put themselves in others' shoes, understand others' difficulties and needs, and lend a helping hand when others need help. This kindness and care will make people recognize and accept them from the bottom of their hearts. Take work as an example. If a leader can respect subordinates, listen to colleagues' opinions, and be helpful, team members will definitely support and respect him sincerely. In life, if a person can understand others and take the initiative to care about people around him, He will also have good interpersonal relationships and sincere friendships. This kind of respect and recognition is immeasurable by money and cannot be bought with money. No matter how much money you have, if you treat others arrogantly and selfishly, no one will sincerely respect you. The reason why many people fall into the misunderstanding of spending money to buy respect is essentially due to a deviation in their understanding of respect, and they are also affected by the impetuous social atmosphere. In today's society, materialism is quite prevalent. Many people equate wealth with success, thinking that being rich means being successful and success will bring respect. This wrong concept makes many people continuously pursue material wealth, trying to prove their value through external materials. But in fact, the core of respect is the recognition of a person's inner value, which is composed of many factors such as personal morality, ability and cultivation, and has no direct relationship with money or material things. No matter how much wealth a person has, if they have bad morality, are selfish and arrogant, they can never get real respect. On the contrary, even if a person doesn't have much money, if they have noble morality, are hardworking, kind, and sincere to others, they will still be respected by others. Just like those volunteers who dedicate silently, they may not have much wealth, but their actions have moved many people and won everyone's respect. So, equating wealth with respect is essentially a wrong cognition. So when we want to gain others' respect, don't focus on buying expensive materials. Instead, we should pay more attention to improving our inner qualities. First of all, learn to be humble. Correctly recognize your strengths and weaknesses. Don't be complacent and respect everyone around you. Treat others equally regardless of their identity or status. Secondly, cultivate your empathy. Learn to care about others, understand others, and help others within your ability. Usually pay more attention to the needs of people around you. A caring word or a small help can draw you closer to others. At the same time, continuously improve your ability and cultivation, and realize the improvement of personal value through hard work and learning. When you can do these things, you will naturally win others' respect and recognition. This kind of respect is sincere and long-lasting, which is far more meaningful than the superficial attention bought with money. Moreover, when you no longer cling to proving yourself with materials, you will become more calm and confident, not bound by others' opinions, and can focus more on your own life and inner growth, thus achieving true happiness and satisfaction. This is the correct way to gain respect and the key to living a happy life. Next, let's talk about the perception of wealth. There's a view that subverts everyone's traditional cognition. Wealth is actually the assets we can't see. This view also reveals a common blind spot when many people judge others' financial situations. The author of The Uniform Mindset shares an experience from his early work in the book, which made him have a brand new understanding of wealth. At that time, he met a man named Roger who was about his age. At first, he didn't know what industry Roger was in. But when he saw Roger driving a Porsche, he couldn't help but imagine that Roger must be very rich and successful in his career. After all, a Porsche is a luxury sports car, which itself carries the label of wealth and success. Most people will subconsciously think that the person driving such a car is wealthy. But not long after, he found that Roger had changed to a very old Honda. This made him very curious. So he asked Roger where his Porsche had gone. Roger replied very calmly that he hadn't repaid the loan for several months, and the car had been repossessed by the bank. He said this without any embarrassment, as if he was talking about something ordinary. But at that moment, the author's imagination of Roger completely changed. It turned out that the Porsche that seemed to symbolize wealth not only couldn't represent Roger's real financial situation but also reflected his financial distress. He was heavily in debt and couldn't even repay the loan. This example is really shocking, and it also makes us understand that we can't judge a person's financial situation only by external things. The author also mentions that there are many such people in the United States who always like to package themselves with external materials to create an illusion of wealth, but in fact, their financial situation may be very bad. In real life, we are also easy to judge a person's financial success by what we see in front of us, such as a person's car, house, or carefully taken photos on social media. These things are explicit and can be directly seen, so they are easily used as the basis for our judgment. But in fact, these explicit materials cannot represent a person's real wealth, and may even be completely opposite to the real financial situation. Let me give you an example. When you see someone buying a $100,000 famous car, the only thing you can be sure of is that their bank account has decreased by $100,000, or their debt has increased by $100,000 beyond that. You have no idea how much savings they have in their bank account.